Kris Rogers. I've been with IQ for about 7 years. I'm based out of our probably not quite as warm and sunny as today here in Phoenix, but Charlotte, North Carolina office, as if you can't tell by the accent already. I'd like to also turn it over to and introduce, I should say, my colleague, Mrs. Megan House.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan, and I just want to let you guys know that Kris and I do have one thing in common, and that's that we are an avid dog lovers. However, I work in a much colder territory up in our Saskatchewan office in Canada. I've been a customer success manager with IQ for the past year, and I have a little bit of a business intelligence expertise, whereas Kris is our RQ4 product expert. So just to cover our agenda about what we're going to be going over today, first off, we're going to go over what metrics mean to you and your business, but we're also going to talk about what metrics mean to us and the idea behind intelligent metrics, or IQ metrics as you know it. We'll go into some high-impact RQ4 reports. We'll be going into this in a live demo, so hopefully that works out okay, but it is a test here. And then we're going to cover the new business intelligence product. This is something that we're announcing at this year's summit, is our new BI project. And for more information, you guys can actually attend Sarah Tuff and Tracy Lee's presentation tomorrow afternoon if it is something that you're interested in. So what do metrics mean to your business? I think this quote by Bill Gates just really pertains to what we're talking about today, and that is how you gather, manage, and use information will determine whether you win or lose. Metrics really does equal success, and we want you guys to be able to go home after today's presentation and start making these changes to your business immediately to hopefully make some changes to your profit as well. Metrics aren't just about the numbers, it's about the story behind those numbers and using that story to work with your database to have that success. RQ4 has so many tools that allows you to do this, whether it is setting up performance groups within your database, or if it's just sorting, managing, and filtering those reports, but also tools like New BI to be advancing your business. So business really is a lot like an airplane in flight. You do have all of these gauges in front of you. And it's so easy to focus on that small detail, and often we miss the bigger issue at hand. It's the same idea as not being able to see the forest for the trees. If you put the focus on the most meaningful, high-impact measures, it's much more easy to make that change within your business and delegate the other tasks to the people surrounding you within your company. It does take a ton of key measures to keep that airplane in flight, just like it takes a ton of key measures to get your business to your ultimate goal and destination. We want you to be sure you're paying attention to those key measures to have that high impact on your business. We do recognize that this can be really overwhelming. There are a ton of metrics within RQ4, and there is so much information available to you, but that's an awesome thing. So many people gauge themselves against what their carrier is telling them and what the information their carrier is giving them. The reality is you can take this information and use it to your advantage to set yourself apart in the industry. So some of you may or may not know, back in the 80s, the founders of IQ actually owned a 12-store wireless retail chain doing exactly what you guys do. The owners of the company realized that they needed to be able to take the data that they were collecting every day and create these specific metrics. Metrics that can be used to make decisions and influence and change and promote to the self-management. So the intelligent metrics, or idea of IQ was born. So Christopher, who is one of the founders, came up with this very simple graph at that time. Basically, the idea is you do have that flat line of expenses that occur every month, month over month. And so it's your basic rent, your power, your hard-coded costs, what is needed to keep the doors open. What he realized, so this is back in the 80s again, is that often he never actually met that line with an inflection point until a couple of days before the end of the month. So he was never actually making a true profit until 2 or 3 days before the month end. Anything after that was his profit line. So what he realized is if he moves that inflection point backwards, you can actually easily double or triple your profit. So that inflection point is what's going to accelerate your profit, and that's what we're going to speak to today, how you're going to move that inflection point backwards on this line. whether that is through whether it is through increasing your sales per accessory, or if it's monitoring your performance groups and those kinds of things. What Christopher used to do is actually fax that information from store to store to store. But the reality is with RQ4, it's a lot easier nowadays. So originally, the small piece of the pie, we want the big piece. This might look familiar, and it should, because this is actually something we've incorporated into RQ4 with the executive dashboard. So again, as long as you guys are inputting your expenses into RQ4, you're going to be able to monitor this profit line and that inflection point. And this is all in the executive dashboard. So now back to the how. It all sounds like a great concept, but how do we actually move that inflection point backwards? For that, I'm going to pass it over to Kris to show you guys some information right in RQ4.
All right, thanks, Megan. Well, as you may have heard Megan mention, we are going to do something a little bit out of the box today. We're going to try and actually work through some RQ4 reporting in the live version. I know. I'm confident, though, that everything will be just perfect. So, one of the first things I want to talk about is customizing the RQ4 reports. You've probably seen this before. I hope you've seen at least some of it before. When we talk about high-impact reporting, you can't really get there without knowing exactly what you've got. Very baseline, and that's customizing the reports. I understand that for the folks in the back, it may be a bit difficult to see this. That's okay. Please pay attention to more so what I'm telling you to do and how we're going to build these out. At the end, any questions that you have, if you missed a column or a row, see me after, use the hashtag. We'll be sure to get that information to you. I'd be glad to work through that report with you. So for starters, just to open up a very simple RQ4 report, don't forget about the keyword search. I think that's also just as important, is understanding that we don't have to go sifting through every report or every category. Just something as simple as a customer list report. I'm just going to open that up. I'm going to run it for just a quick month, just to give you a very, very baseline example. As you probably, again, have seen before, and if not, that's great, that's why you're here, right-clicking on any column and unchecking the column removes that from the report. So if you're not interested in having a 15 or 20 column report, maybe it's really just 5 or 6 columns that you really need, maybe you want to remove those and get rid of those. That's perfect. Another thing you can do is drag and drop. So if it means moving columns around that makes more sense to you, or maybe it makes more sense to your owner, consider doing that. Filters. Filters are a great way to simply start typing. It needs at least 3 characters and you're set to go. This report, probably not the best example, but if we're talking 200, 300, 500 lines of information, being able to apply a filter is huge. So here's the filter option. The last top shelf piece here is the formatting. So it's a lot like Excel. Whether you want to use color-coded formatting, you can use greater than, less than, highlight if the row contains a certain word or phrase. So it really is almost like configuring an Excel sheet. It's all in RQ4. If you don't take anything else away, take these 2 pieces away today. The first thing is, within every report, there's a button that looks like this, and I apologize if you can't see it. It's a little dotted line, and it's hidden a lot of times. What this is, it's a freeze column marker. You drop that, it's going to freeze everything to the right. I'm actually surprised at how many people don't know that exists. It's a great way for the larger reports to save yourself time and space. The second takeaway point is grouping. By just dragging and dropping up into this area, you're able to group the report. Whether it's by last name, first name, city, product, which we'll get into in a few minutes. Grouping is going to be a lot of what I'll show you today in terms of getting to and creating these high-impact reports. Once you've got a report the way you like it, another hidden gem is the favorite. Mark this as a favorite. It follows you around as a favorite report. Taking that one step further, customizing a report. Once you like the way it looks, you've filtered, formatted, taken out the columns you're not interested in, maybe you've highlighted. Consider creating and calling that whatever you need it to be called. Maybe your owner, your administrator, your manager is interested in having it called something else. He doesn't like the way RQ4 names the report. Great way to do that is by creating a customized report name. It will always go back and tell you where the report came from, and the date is also customizable. So think about being able to not only create a custom report, but then save it, and then have that saved for yourself. One thing I will mention that is relatively new, and I may be telling you guys something you don't already know, in that Brand new in RQ4 is the ability to share these reports. So not only are they in your RQ4 database when you open up RQ4 from corporate, from a store on the road, but they're also able to be shared. You can pass that down to any employee group in the company. So now think about being able to create a custom report for your managers, maybe a custom report for your sales reps. It's really just as simple as creating the report, using the share box, and it's really just as easy as 1, 2, 3. How many of you are actually already using that shared functionality for custom reports? Good. So the next key piece to any good high-impact reporting is understanding how the performance groups in RQ4 work. Performance groups are located in the reports package here in Tools. Performance group setup, it's going to give you the ability to actually do a couple incredible things. Where I am again is Reports, under Tools, and it's this section here. So performance group setup lets me create customized groups, whether it's specific phones, devices. Maybe you're interested in managing upgrades or activations in a different way. The key is you create the group, you create the SKUs that live under that group, and every time that product is sold, your company has a different angle on the canned reports you already get in RQ4. Another neat feature, and not everyone understands this, is that if I add products here by category rather than by product, anytime a new device or maybe a new accessory gets added to that already existing category, if I've used the by category addition, it automatically becomes part of my performance group. So keep that in mind as you set these up, especially if you're new to the idea. Taking that one step further, targets. Once we've created groups and decided what SKU should fall into the group, we can set targets up on a number of different levels, company, region, all the way down to the employee level. One thing that I'll also mention is that once performance groups are created, you guys have the ability to go back in and set up performance targets. Performance targets are what used to be just quantity-based, can now be based on a quantity, sales dollars, so dollars sold, a profit goal, or a profit measurement, or a margin percentage. So we can set up targets for our reps on any of those 4 categories in addition to the management tool that we already have. I will mention in tomorrow's new product session, if you're able to make it there, they're going to talk about a really new feature that we're rolling out with targets. For those of you that are using this and maybe wish it would work a little bit better, it does and it will. So check out tomorrow's new product session and learn more about that. So assuming performance groups are created, we have a report that really is crucial to understanding not only how the company is performing, but how your individual sales reps are performing. It's found in the performance metrics section. It's under the report called Performance Metrics Summary Report. So a couple of important things here. I'm going to run this for the entire company for a longer time period just to try and get some good information. It's going to break down every performance group I have. So we'll use the iPhone as an example. So for the company, if I've got an iPhone category in place, we've sold 161. Here's our sales dollars, here's our profit, and then a margin. Now this is by group. I can take that and shift that to by location. So now I've got a great visible tool for profit by iPhone, sales by iPhone. This can be whatever you want. Customize this however you like. Finally, the one I really like is by employee. I can see by employee exactly who and exactly where people stand when it comes to iPhone's features. Again, upgrades, this is up to you, and that can be done on a quantity, sales, profit, or margin based. If we did choose to put in targets, you'd be able to not only see what each employee's target was, but where they're trending and what their habitual goal would be. Performance metrics. Moving forward, I want to talk about milestones. Hopefully you've heard of this before, you've seen this before. How many of you are actually using milestones today? Perfect. So milestones are critical to performance groups in that they're derived of them. You can't have a milestone until you have a performance group set up. Targets not so much, but just the group. I'll show you what I mean. Under settings, if we look under the human resources portion, you'll see the milestone setup. So settings, CRM, human resources. I've created a few for you, and again, I hope you can see this. Accessory profit, accessory sales, feature revenue, new activations, and maybe a handset protection. These milestones are created separately. They're just like, think of them as performance groups, but they're going to be a little bit more interactive, and I'll show you what I mean. Not only do we have the ability to track these, we can also put in our key description. This is more placeholder for you as owners. The key here are the tiers. Not only can I measure this, but I can also set up tiers for my sales reps. Once I reach a certain profit, once my sales reps reach a certain sales count or sales amount, we can give prizes. You can give prizes or you can give cash rewards. It's up to you, whether that's gift cards, houses, cars, whatever you want to give away. The idea is whether it's 2 tiers, 3 tiers, 4 tiers, and I'll show you where this flows through in 2 seconds, it's a great motivational tool for your sales reps. Desired goal can be here. I'll show you how that works. Availability works a lot like a price sheet or like a price sheet promotion. I did mention it's based off of the performance group, so you do have to choose that. Commission groups can be selected, and it can be location-based. Some of the reporting around milestones look like this. The milestone progress report is going to show me, depending on which milestone I'm interested in, we'll just look at accessory profit, for example. By sales rep, how do we fare? What's the milestone name, the sales count, and these 2 columns, if I had more tiers, you'd see more columns here, actually will check off the box whenever they've met a certain goal or hit a certain tier. The real interesting piece here is the interactive dashboard that you get on the desktop. So as a sales rep, I can drop this down at any given point. You can have up to 5 milestones at any time. I can see exactly where I stand. Here's where I am. The dash lines are tiers, and then I've got my ultimate goal at the very end. I can mouse over and click on any one to get status information. How many have I sold? What's my profit? What's my margin, depending on how you guys set the milestones up? Details and rewards. Whenever I hit a milestone, there's a NASCAR-style checkered flag that runs across the bottom of the screen, so it's a great motivational tool. It's almost like the speed checker on the side of the highway. I know I might speed every now and then through the same street, but until I actually see my speed on a board, I really don't do anything about it. So as a sales rep, if I have this in front of me and I can actually see, as in a tangible way where I'm at and what my targets are, I think this would motivate. And what we found, for those of you that raised your hand, I'd be interested on your feedback on if that actually is the case for you as well. So we could probably spend this entire session just talking about sales and sales metrics. I won't get into all of them. What I really do want to touch on, though, first of all, is one of the most important metrics that is a trending metric today, and that's gross profit and accessory sales. We know that your margins on all of the devices that you're carrying are shrinking. We know that accessory sales are driving a huge amount of your profit. One of the things I'll mention, just because I think it's interesting, is that last year, I believe it was for the full year last year, there were at least, on average, 199 accessories per location per month. So think about that for 1 minute, and then understand that that resulted in over $28 million in profit. And that's through RQ4. So that's to say a lot about the value and the importance of being able to not only sell accessories, obviously, but be able to track that information. How many and at what profit. Another good stat that I like is the fact that last year, RQ4 users' average gross profit per accessory was $11.41. All that's fine and well, but I want to talk a little bit about getting to that in the RQ4 reporting. So really what I'm talking about is monitoring accessories and their profit. If I take just a very simple product detail report, I'm going to run this for my category called accessories for a bit of a larger date range. One quick group, all I have to do is find my description column. Go ahead and group by that column. And in one click, I've got by accessory, all of my accessory profit. Whether you want to export this, filter it, go ahead and do some color formatting. I can minimize the different groups. So at a glance, you've got not only accessory sales, but profit by accessory. I could take this one step further and group by location. Maybe I'm interested in grouping by tendered by. Sales rep wise, who's responsible for the most profit on what accessories? You can get really creative with your groupings. You may have 4 or 5. I've seen clients use this report and literally have 6 groups here at the top. So whatever makes sense for you, whatever high impact metric you're interested in, chances are the grouping in RQ4 will get you there. Back to the idea of compatibility. I know you've heard the word before. It's in RQ4. It's sometimes a foggy part of the program, but before I talk about how it works and what it does, last year, only 17% of our users actually, they may have known what it was, but only 17 used it. Since then, we've seen that increase to, and today actually, it's 72%. So hopefully what I'm about to tell you is not uncommon to most of you in the room. We want to talk about it a little bit of a different edge to put on it today, though. For those of you last year and this year that use more than 25% compatibility, in other words, for your accessories, if they're set to be compatible, we saw that increase profits, at least on average, by $2.91 per accessory. Take that one step further. For those of you that have 85% of your accessories set up as compatible, that number actually increases by almost $2 to $5. So yes, compatibility is important. We dug these numbers up, and they really do hit home, whether it's 2 stores or 20 stores that you have. Taking that one step further, the activation gross profit report. How many people have seen this report and are using it today? So the activation gross profit report is a great way to drill down to the actual activation profit. Every invoice that you do that is an activation, whether there's accessories that are sold, whether there's features that are sold, this report's actually going to break down the profit for you. Let me tell you, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to do a very quick sale here. Let's just let it be an activation. It wants to cooperate. So for those of you that may be unfamiliar with the term compatibility, for starters, after I bypass the first screen, once I've entered in my information for the device, the rate plan, the mobile number, you come to the first screen. We call this rate plans item. These are compatible features. As a sales rep, all I have to do is decide which feature the customer needs. Not only which one they need, but which one are we actually suggesting or pushing. You set this up on the product level. If you have questions about how this is set up, please let me know. Another key box here is this empty field. A lot of folks don't understand what this does. This lets you scan in barcodes. And in the newest version, there's a category picker here. We can add any other feature from this box, even if our corporate office has forgotten to set it up as suggested. The next screen is our accessories. Let's add a protector, maybe a car charger. Move on to the tender screen. So at a glance, we've got a lot of invoice activity here. There's vendor rebate SKUs, there's regular products, non-stock products. Overall, though, and I know you won't be able to see it, this invoice today is $98 in the positives. This is a $98 profit invoice. Why is that important? This is the aggregate level detail that you can get from the new activation gross profit report. Why is that, and how does that work? Any compatible product, whether it's been part of the suggested list or whether you use the empty box to scan it, is fair game for the report. Anything you sell outside the phone activation wizard doesn't get included in the gross profit by activation report. So we want to take a look at that very quickly. Activation gross profit. Go ahead and run this for the entire company. So this is just a quick idea of what you could do. I've already taken a quick bit of time to group by, you guessed it, vendor account. So for those of you that have multiple carriers, do you ever really wonder, well, what's my activation profit look like for a Verizon versus a secondary carrier? Maybe you have 4 or 5 carriers. Why not go ahead and run the activation gross profit and look at it on an aggregate level just like this? Another thing we could do is actually take this one step further. We could break it down by device. So if I drag and drop the phone column, now I'm looking at activation gross profit by device. I could keep going. We could do a rate plan. We could do a term. It's going to be able to be filtered and formatted however you guys want. So I want to talk just for a minute about refunds. We have the refund summary report, and I think a lot of people rely on that report. It's a great audit trail, but refunds are almost just as important of a metric as sales. And we today want to talk a little bit about an alternative way to focus on refunds, specifically high cash refunds. How many of you are tasked with trying to figure out which of your sales reps may be frauding you for whatever reason? Are they returning accessories maybe at a high cost for a high refund, and maybe that refund is cash? I want to give you a quick idea of something you can do. It's actually derived from the sales by invoice report. Sales by invoice report, one of the most detailed reports that we offer in the ArcU4 reports package. I'm going to run it for the entire company for a month. What I've already done is I've actually filtered by, I should say grouped by, tendered by. The only thing you guys have to do in addition to this is go and find your cash column, throw a filter on there, filter this I should say, for anything less than zero. So this is negative cash. So what this is going to do for me, let me pick just a bit of a better date range. It's going to flag every negative cash refund, which is great. We can take that one step further because I've grouped by tendered by, and I can see by employee habitually who is responsible for all of these high cash refunds. Maybe you guys take that one step further and do less than negative 20, 50, whatever your company policy is, might be worth a shot for you. So that's the sales by invoice report. We call it the high cash refund. So what I've done is created a custom report, call it high cash refund, make it be shared with an owner and administrator. It's a great tool that's kind of outside the box. Very quickly, on the topic of discounting. Discounting in ArcU4 is a huge, huge business. There were millions and millions of dollars of discounting literally in the last 2 months just in the ArcU4 system. It's important for you guys to understand not only who and where, but why. We have a report called the Discount Summary Report. You've probably seen it before. In aggregate, it's going to break down every discounted item. But what you may not be aware of and what you may not have tried is to take the Discount Summary Report, group it by discount code, group it by salesperson. What does this do? Well, it's going to tell you first not only why are we discounting, but who. The why is important. You need to make sure in ArcU4 that you've gone in and created discount codes that make sense for your company. They're specific. Take out the miscellaneous one. That doesn't make any sense. Make sure it's all specific to whether it's accounting, whether it's management. It needs to be clear and concise. The primary salesperson, simple enough. Who's discounting and why? And is there habitual discounters here that are just giving products away for no reason? It makes sense to be able to have a red flag report for that, and that's what the discount summary can do. I want to talk a little bit about inventory write-offs and the inventory reporting. Again, this could be an entire hour of this presentation. Without good, proper inventory management from the counting, from the frontline counting, you can't expect any of the high-impact inventory reports to do anything for you. What am I talking about? And that's write-offs. How much are you writing off? We found out that this year, clients are averaging $749 a month in inventory write-offs. What am I talking about, and where's the correlation? Well, the correlation is anybody who counts less than one time a month, and when I say count, I'm talking inventory count module, they're writing off $810 a month. If you're counting 1 to 3 times a month, you can expect that average to be around $687. 1 to 3 times a week, $443. 1+ times a day, we've gotten that number all the way down to $310. And then for 2 or more counts a day, $151. So mathematically, 10 stores and you're counting less than once a month, you're probably writing off $8,000 a month. 10 stores counting 1 or more times a day, all the way down to almost $3,000. You know how many locations you have, do the math. If you're not using inventory counts, consider it. So back to the reporting and the high impact piece here, and that's why are you writing off inventory? You think back to a report we have, if not for the first time you're seeing it, this is a good day to do so, the adjustment history report. I'm going to run this for a large group, and you might not have noticed this box at the top, displaying by invoice or by product. I'm going to display by product. That gives me a little more detail. The main detail that it gives me is this reason code. I can group by reason code now and see who, where, and when, for what reason code are we adjusting inventory or writing it off. Could be a great way to detect fraud, but it's really a great way for you as an inventory manager to drill down on and keep your finger on the pulse of why inventory is being written off in your stores. One of the last pieces I'll talk about today is aging inventory. Aging inventory is a huge issue. We always preach about first in, first out. You want to make sure you're selling the oldest devices first. A report in RQ4 to do that is your inventory aging status report. The coolest thing that I like to do with that report run it for one store today, run it for 5 stores. What I'm interested for you to do is filter the days on hand column. Filter it by anything greater than 100. So if I flip over here to my days in stock, filter greater than 100, you would be surprised how many people find serialized devices in here that are 400, 500, 800 days old. Not only can you find what's outdated, extremely outdated, but you can also create an RMA or generate an RMA directly from this report. That's another hidden tool. I lied. I'm going to give you one more just because this one's really good. Login audit report. How many people use the login audit report? We used to get phone calls all the time in RQ4 support. Can you just go into your database and find out who logged into a certain store and maybe, what workstation? No, we couldn't do it, but we could try to let our DB admins do it. You guys have a way, using the login audit report, to see not only where someone logged in, the workstation name, the time, but you also have a way to see when's the last time people logged in or who has no logins for a certain period of time. I know it's probably hard to see, but this is very detailed information all the way down to the workstation name. Extremely powerful tool for an IT department in conjunction with you guys as owners and managers to actually pinpoint from an RQ4 login perspective who's the last person to log into a workstation. It also features training versus live mode. So if you're curious as to who's screwing up your training database, great way to do that.
All right. Thanks, Kris. I'm going to talk for a couple minutes now. So we are running short on time. If you guys do have questions afterwards, feel free to approach either Kris or myself. And we also have a BI booth set up in the expert lounge down the hall to your left. So if you do have questions on the pieces that I'm going to talk about next, that's where we're at as well. And again, just to reference Sarah and Tracy's presentation to do the full BI announcement tomorrow. So I want to talk a little bit about traffic reporting. We have always had traffic reporting available in BI. We now actually have the traffic account dashboard available in RQ4 as well. Is anyone using this at this point in time? Okay. So this is something that's absolutely available to you. It is a manual import. It takes a couple minutes each day to do it, but the information that it's going to give you is absolutely amazing. There's an average of 60% walkout nowadays, and we are just really curious to know what you guys are doing to keep those customers in your store, and using this information you can work towards that. So looking at the top half of the report, looking at conversion rates. What is your average conversion rate over time, and are you working with your staff to help increase that conversion rate over time? Comparing location against location, who really kicks butt at this and who doesn't? So if a customer is walking into your store and then they leave without even buying anything, again referencing that 60% rate, what does that mean to your sales? And if they have a family of 4, what does that mean to your sales? My sister has actually been through 11 cell phones, not a word of a lie, in the last year and a half. So if you lost her, what does that mean to your sales? Looking at the lower half of the portion of the report, is monthly breakdown in targets. So looking at your locations per month, who's getting more traffic than others, is it something that makes sense because that location might be based in a harder to get to area, or is it a very high traffic area and their traffic should be higher than what it is? Is it something that you need to be working on the merchandising in that store? And then Kris talked about setting up performance targets. This lower portion is where that information is going to become really valuable as well, because you're actually going to be able to see how many more customers you need to get into your store to meet those targets, which is a really neat metric too. And then there's also the scheduled section. So this represents the breakdown for the week from 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. the next day of your percentages. One thing that I used to do when I managed a retail store was actually monitoring customer per man hour. And we would have competitions location to location of who could do the best at this. And again, who's kicking butt at it and who needs a little bit of work. So making sure you're staying on top of those metrics as well. And all of these things are going to, again, move that inflection point back on that original graph that we talked about and take a look at the bigger picture. So moving into new business intelligence. How many people in this room do currently have BI? Okay, so there's a few of you. So is anyone familiar with new business intelligence yet? Of course you are. One, okay. So we are announcing new BI at this year's summit. Sarah's been in the expert lounge talking about it. Business intelligence is always something that we've had as an extension of RQ4. So even though RQ4 does have a ton of ways that you can manipulate that data, business intelligence is just a little bit more customizable. What we're working towards is new BI is actually entirely web-based. It has a brand new interface, and there's some really, really cool tools moving forward. So this is my favorite piece. How many of you have exported a report to Excel and emailed it to staff? And how often do you have to do this? And it gets very, very tedious. With BI, you can actually create email subscriptions. So this is going to save you a ton of time. You can decide exactly who gets it, how often they get it, when they get it, and it goes directly to their email. So one thing that we've struggled with BI is typically it's 2 or 3 BI experts in a company, and they're the ones monitoring those reports. Now with something like this, even though I might be the BI expert building the report, you can actually email it to anyone in the company, so front-of-line sales staff can actually be seeing these really new, cool, sleek and sexy reports. And another awesome feature about new BI is that it's actually mobile. So you can get it on any device that has an internet connection, whether that's your smartphone, your iPad, whatever it might be. Habitually, we're just using desktops less and less, and we really want to work towards moving with that trend and giving you guys the reporting on the go. As I said, I was an account manager for the past year. Almost every client I'd talk to, they'd be in their car, and I'm like, are you using a handless set? And they'd say yes, but I'm on my way to my kid's soccer game, or I'm in between locations. So now you can actually always have that reporting on the go. So I'm just going to cover all of the standard reports that are going to be included in the BI package when you get it. So these aren't ones that you actually have to build yourself, but they'll be ready-made. So the first one is a top and bottom report, and it's allowing for the clear picture of both top and bottom employees, products, and locations. So it's a quick glance, and I'll just give you a bit of a better perspective. And again, I apologize on the resolution on this. But it really allows you to easily recognize who the top performers are in your company, but also quickly decide who the outliers might be, and decide what do you need to be working on with those people to improve their performance. And as I said, get a full picture of the business. Again, rather than just focusing on one small gauge in that plane, looking at the big picture and your ultimate goal and destination. The next standard reports are the ranking reports. And again, so with the top and bottom reports, it's a more broader scale. This shows a bit more trends. And I don't know if you can see that, but it will do a 4-month trend and a year-over-year trend. So it's just looking a little bit more granularity than the top and bottom report. And this is the one run by employees. So similar to what Kris was showing you in RQ4, we can have it in business intelligence as well, with a little bit more detail, a little bit more customizable. We can also run rank by store. And then one of my favorite things about BI is it really does allow you to take that step back. So we can also look at rank by region and rank by district. This is one of my favorite standard reports in new BI, and that's the growth trends report. So again, we don't want to get lost in the details, and we don't want to focus on every single gauge. This will allow you to have a month-over-month trends for top and bottom performers and your yearly growth figures. I want to look at this a little bit more closely. So the main reasons you're going to love this report is that it not only allows you to identify where things are at right now, but also where you're headed. So if you're not headed for growth, what are the things that you need to do to change that variable? Again, very similar to the idea of that inflection point on that profit graph that we showed you in the beginning. And this will just be the lower half of the report, so showing you more detail behind all of that. Kris talked about refunds and how important that is. I just find so many people are always focusing on sales, but refunds can actually have just as big of an impact on your profit line as well. So make sure you're taking a look at that and those refund percentages. So the refund reports will be available, again, refunds by employee. So you can see your top refunding employees, and is it something that's fraud? Or what exactly is going on there? Is it just that they're not closing the sale properly? Or a lot of times, I always talk about the things that I love. So is it just that they have the iPhone, they're passionate about that, so they're gonna sell more iPhones, whether that is best for the customer or not. And then also looking at refunds by location, so maybe which managers need more help, and refunds by product. This could be something, maybe it is a faulty product that you want to carry less of, or maybe it's just that you don't have it merchandised properly. There's a lot of variables here as well. And you can look at the lower half of that report. So, in summary, focus on your goals and your destinations. Look at the big picture. Make sure you are taking a step back and not getting overwhelmed by all of the small details. You can maximize profit by increasing the revenue. And you can use RQ4 to help you get there, but also look forward to all of the advancements such as BI.
Thanks everyone for coming out, and enjoy the rest of the day.